Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of The Lap Down. I am your host, Greg Farmer, and with me tonight is Jayme, JP, and Ryan. How are we doing tonight, boys?
I'm good,
Good.
man.
Can't complain.
That is good to hear. We're doing this about a day late. We all had a little bit of stuff going on the last couple of days. That's okay. We're still getting it in. Always, a big thank you to our band, the Alkali Project, for the intro and outro music on this show. Please be sure to check out their album, The Blood World. I want to start off our show tonight with a dedication to one Mr. Turner Norman. He is an 8-year-old child who lives about 20 to 25 minutes away from me. According to his mom, is a self-taught NASCAR fan, a massive Kyle Busch fan. And the reason why I'm dedicating this show to him is, he was involved in a serious accident, the Monday after the Talladega race a couple weeks ago, in which, yesterday or the day before, he lost his right eye. And I met his aunt today, and she's super nice. I gave her some stuff to give to him that he could enjoy as part of his recovery. And my wife spoke with his mom today, and he wants to come on our show and have just a little sit down, so we can definitely try to plan something during the off season for that little kid. What do you guys think?
I like the
Definitely.
idea.
Definitely.
All right. So so Turner, this one is for you. We're going to jump right in continuation with what we've been discussing for the last couple of weeks with the lawsuit between 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports versus NASCAR. NASCAR started the process of revoking both teams' charters today, which could move the grid to a 32-car guaranteed spot starting grid next year with up to 8 open cars. Basically what that means is they denied both teams' injunction that they filed, and Front Row Motorsports and 2311 charter purchases that were rumored or talked about earlier in the season have basically been denied by NASCAR since they did not sign the charter agreement. And Ryan was telling me right before we went on the air that NASCAR has requested the hearing for November the 3rd, which is the Monday before the championship race.
And that hearing is for the injunction, so it's not NASCAR's decision. They're opposing the injunction, which means that hearing date we'll find out whether or not they'll be eligible to race as chartered cars next year or not.
I gotcha. There's been so much stuff coming out here lately, it's hard to keep up with it all.
Yep.
But Jayme, how do we feel about NASCAR starting to revoke their charters?
I'm worried. I don't like the direction this is taking. I know NASCAR is trying to play hardball to get their point across with the lawsuit, but it's not a good feeling. And last thing that they want to do is take cars off the track than they already had to. We went from 44 car fields down to 42, down to 40. Now it's down to 38, and now you're talking 32 because of the charter situation. It's losing money, and if it continues this trend, I'm scared to see what the future is going to look like.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. JP, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of been scared. Not get scared, just kind of intrigued that it came to this. But I mean, it's a scary situation for NASCAR fans right now. We don't know how big the field's going to be. come next year. It could be 32. It could be back up to 40.
Well, the field itself will always be available to go up to 30 to 40. It just depends on how many cars show up.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I don't like the fact that we're in this situation as fans. Which we were able to have more answers than questions, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Yep. It is definitely a difficult time to be a NASCAR fan because, you know, you got you got a guy like Tyler Reddick who races for 2311. His boss is locked into the field next year no matter what. He doesn't know if he's going to be able to race every race next year, which, I mean, you know, if they have the speed, they'll qualify, obviously. But, you know, he could go out and win the championship this year and then be an open car next year. Like, it's such a weird sequence of events going on. But, Ryan, I'm interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, I know obviously the general convention is to be a little bit worried about this, but I also look at this from the side of the fact that the teams made virtually no progress in these negotiations for like 2 or 3 years now. And basically we're stalling the talks the entire time, it seemed. Now, some of that certainly falls on NASCAR, but I think at least some of that has to fall on the responsibility of the teams to, one, know what direction they want to go and be unified on that, because when the teams aren't all pulling in the same direction, it makes negotiating just that little bit tougher to pull off. And yeah, honestly, I actually am curious because when it comes to actually like being worried about missing the field, we haven't seen a more than 40 car field at any race other than Daytona in literally years. And that would be assuming that, okay, in qualifying, again, outside the Daytona 500, 2311 should easily be able to outspeed the MBMs and NY Racings that show up on the single car speeds. Again, Daytona's the only outlier because Daytona does have the Daytona duels that could provide chaos.
And could by one of those cars going home.
Yeah, but again,
let me
again, that's the other
counter-argue.
part where I find it where I don't actually feel all that bad for the teams, because I think this is NASCAR actually starting to move in the direction that they wanted to. I mean, I think NASCAR wants to try and start pulling back the charters if they can, and if the teams are going to open themselves up to letting NASCAR revoke the charter, this is a 1-by-1 like this. Yeah, it certainly is something that they opened themselves up to by not signing. Like, they knew the risk of not signing the agreement.
Yep. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
I do have one major question though about this, because since NASCAR denied the sale of the Stewart-Haas cars, the Stewart-Haas charters, that's now 2 more charters that are now just all of a sudden back on the table. I know Roush Fenway has been supposedly a bidder in the whole charter deal, so is it possible that they are now back in the running now that those 2 charters are back theoretically on the table? And if so, who else?
Yeah, that's a good point. Sorry, I had to read for a second. My mic muted.
Oh, you're okay. Let me counter argue something that you said a second ago. You got the drivers for front row in 2311 that would almost 100% of the time out-qualify the single car teams and stuff. But what if you get to one of those races where they find some sort of issue before qualifying and then they can't post a qualifying lap, and then all of a sudden they're packing everything up and going home?
Well, yeah, and that's obviously a potential issue. But again, we also haven't, even just seeing a full 40 car field, we haven't, I think the only time we've seen that was we saw it at Talladega a couple weeks ago, but prior to that, again, aside from Daytona 500, I don't remember the last time we actually saw a consistently full 40 car field. And I certainly don't remember the last time we saw bumping at a track other than Daytona for the 500.
Yeah, but the way this is going, I would not put it past NASCAR to say something during the off season where starting next year, with the exception of the Daytona 500, every race is capped at 36 cars.
I don't believe they have the ability to cap the field like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the size of the field is part of the charter deal that they would have signed. And I feel like we would have heard something about that at this point.
That's true. Any additional thoughts on this before we move on, Jayme or JP?
Nope, I'm good.
I think I'm good.
All right. Well, that was really about the only breaking off-track news, so we'll go ahead and jump right into our recap. They raced at the Roval this past weekend. I don't know about you guys. I think the Roval has worn out its welcome. As we mentioned last week, they did make some changes to the track. Mainly turn 7 made it into more of a hairpin, and it did make the racing a little bit more interesting. We saw a lot of 3 and 4 wide going through there, a lot of contact, some airborne cars, Tyler Reddick. But we'll start with the Xfinity Series race, because that's where most of the controversy, not all of it, but most of it came from this past weekend. Kligerman, in my opinion, was robbed out of a win after Leland Honeyman Jr. blew a left front tire and got buried in the tire barrier. And NASCAR waited about 20 to 25 seconds to throw the yellow flag. And when they did throw the yellow flag, Parker Kligerman was about 3 feet from the start-finish line to take the white flag. That set up a green-white checkered and allowed Sam Mayer to take the win. And Parker ended up getting relegated to a 6th place finish, if I'm not mistaken, and eliminated from the Xfinity Series playoffs. Jayme, how do we feel about NASCAR's crappy officiating yet again?
This seems to be a trend, right? It's happening more and more than I feel like it has been in years, it could just be because I'm paying more attention to it. But it's impacting races. It's causing drivers to lose out on wins that are much deserved and which could also have big impact on their race teams for actually getting the win. And I hate to see it for them, but at the end of the day, it's not much you can really do about that, and it just sucks.
Yeah. What about you, JP?
Yeah, I tend to agree. Okay, this is elementary moves NASCAR's making. Come on, NASCAR, get with the program, make your right calls, so that we don't have to sit here as fans and feel like we're whining to you. I know there's people out there that listen to this show that's in NASCAR.
Well,
so
go ahead.
Get your head out of your butts and let's have a good rest of the season.
Well, I agree with you. most of what you said, but the thing is NASCAR made the right call to throw the caution because you did have a car buried in the tire barrier.
Yeah.
But one, either throw the caution well beforehand or just let him take the white flag, throw the caution, and end the race under yellow. Don't do it right when he's about to take the yellow or the white flag. But,
yeah.
Ryan, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say is I feel like a lot of the talking points around this whole thing are a little bit off. I don't think Kligerman was really robbed, and I think a lot of the people mentioning that are really kind of barking up the wrong tree because, again, as you said, NASCAR got the call right in the end. Yeah, there were definitely ways they could have done this better to avoid confusion, but ultimately, for me, I'm okay with it because they got the right call. The race should have rightfully gone to overtime, which it did, and the race should have had a restart, which it did, and it gave Sam Mayer the opportunity to try and go for the win, which he did, and got the win fair and square. And I mean,
Yeah.
I am by no means the biggest Sam Mayer fan around, but again, I am very much a fan of NASCAR when they get calls right. I wish they made the call a little bit sooner because even TV had a camera on it for probably a good 10, 15 seconds before the caution was called.
Yeah.
But I also remember, coincidentally, later in the weekend, over in the NFL, the Bengals and Giants game had some controversial calls, and their booth apparently doesn't have access to the TV footage and doesn't have as good of angles as the TV footage does, and which makes it somewhat believable that NASCAR also does not have great camera angles, which, I mean, that's just a problem of officiating. You need to have the best camera angles available, but it doesn't seem to be a NASCAR only problem.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to some other podcasts this week, and they were, obviously this was a main talking point for them too. I think it was either Jeff Gluck or maybe Freddie Kraft from Door Bumper Clear. He said one of them talked to the Xfinity Series race director after the race. They asked him why, it took so long to throw the yellow. And he said they don't watch the broadcast. They watch the race from out the window. So, and apparently they didn't have a track spotter down there in that particular turn where Honeyman went into the tire barrier.
Yeah, and because he was fully under the tire barrier, it certainly was a hard spot to see him. I mean, there was a good portion of it for a few seconds when they had the camera on the guy that we were trying to figure out, okay, they've got the camera on the tires. What is that in the tires? And then we realized, oh, it's a race car. And that was with the benefit of the TV cameras, which, again, they did not have.
Yeah. I just feel bad for all of those Twitter accounts that, posted when the caution came out that Parker Kligerman won the race, and then they were like, oh, wait, no, he didn't.
Yep. I mean, granted, I think that's a lot of the same stuff. I mean, think about back to the Buescher photo finish where a lot of those same Twitter accounts posted out that Buescher had won the race.
Yeah, and then coincidentally, the uneven start-finish line.
Well, yeah, and again, though, they went back to that, to the camera and got the call right, which, again, I don't have a problem as long as they get the call right. Obviously, I'd prefer them to get the call right immediately and not have any mistakes, but they're human. There are going to be some situations where something isn't quite as clear as it should be.
Moving to Sunday in the Cup Series race, it was a cutoff race for the Cup Series, and you had basically 5 drivers vying for 4 positions in to get into the round of 8. Kyle Larson scored his 6th win of the season and has set himself up pretty nicely for the round of 8. You know, like we were talking about, turn 7, was quote unquote calamity corner. You had a lot of contact through there. Tyler Reddick, who was boss, and looked like Carson Hocevar was a freaking bulldozer most of the day. But the real drama from the race didn't start until after the race. If you were a driver of the 48 car this weekend, it was a bad time to be the driver of a 48 car. Alex Bowman got disqualified after his car did not make minimum weight in post-race inspection. He had made the round of 8, but because of the DQ, he ended up getting eliminated, and Joey Logano took his place. And so a lot of people were speculating about Hendrick Motorsports appealing this penalty. However, on Monday, they announced that they were not appealing. They said that they, quote, did not give themselves enough of a margin. Wait. There was a lot of speculation as to what happened. There was one point in the race where Bowman was coming through the front stretch chicane and hit the turtles on the left side and ended up launching his car about 2 feet in the air. And a lot of people were speculating that something may have fallen off the car. But my first question to you guys, starting with Jayme, is what could have gone wrong to make them be underweight? And did Hendrick know that they messed something up leading to the non-appeal?
I think their own investigation with like talking to the mechanics, talking to the bodybuilders in the shop. I'm sure they probably found like some fault, which is probably why they didn't do the appeal. Cause I was kind of reading into it and I did see a quote where it says, after a thorough review by our team and the sanctioning body, we simply did not give ourselves enough margin to meet the post-race requirement. So it looks like it was like a mathematical error when it came to the weight requirement, and ultimately there was no point in fighting it, because even though it was an unintentional infraction, it was very much avoidable. And hate it for Bowman. He worked hard to get that, but this is why it's a team sport and not just one person.
Right. And for the record, Brad Moran, who was the leading the post-race inspection, he did a video with Bob Pockrass and a few other people, and said that they give the teams a 0.5%, what's that word?
Wiggle room.
Yeah, 0.5% margin of error, which accounts for about 17 pounds. So his car was either well under 17 pounds or it could have been like half a pound. Either way, it still led to the disqualification. But JP, what do you think about it?
I read about it, and I jokingly, I first talked about you and how pissed off you must be as I was totally, but, I've said it time and time before. And you said it already. It's a team sport. A human make a mistake and a victim make a bet. So,
Yep.
it's a ball and strike call. If they were going to appeal it, it's a ball and strike call if they would win it. Obviously, Hendrick Motorsports felt like the strike had been given, if we're talking baseball terms here. But furthermore, I was just as shocked as anybody else. And my guy's like, have you seen this? I said, yep. So, not too surprised, but yet surprised enough.
Yeah, you are right about one thing. I was sitting in my car at a gas station, and the tweet came across my phone from Bob Pockris that Bowman had been disqualified, and I looked at my wife and just got like super upset. But Ryan, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, again, like, as you said, they have a 17-pound margin of difference, so they had plenty of room to work with. There was no real reason for them to be chancing it the way they were, and especially where Bowman has such a good points lead coming into this race that there's very little reason for him to have been going nearly as aggressive as they did with him. And again, looking at the contact with the wall, I mean, nothing came off that car that would have accounted for a 17-pound or even close to 17 pounds of difference.
Yeah.
Obviously, the entire weight wasn't all 17 coming out of that.
Yeah, no, there were a lot of people speculating and posting like screenshots of Michael McDowell's onboard when Bowman got airborne, and like said when like he landed, it looked like some stuff like flew off the car and stuff. The only thing that I could think of would be one of those tungsten ballast things, but that would be pretty noticeable coming off the car, and if another car hit it, it would definitely do some damage.
Well, yeah, and then kind of going on to that same point, if this could be a reason why NASCAR didn't, or why Hendrick didn't appeal it. The risk of a further penalty if that was ballast that came out. I mean, maybe they didn't want to try and risk a high monetary fine or even potentially a bigger points penalty to their organization, because Bowman does still get to race for 5th place in driver points. Obviously, it's not the same as being able to compete for a championship, but every bit counts.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already
So
heard
if they were worried about potentially a further points penalty because of this, or a monetary fine that they weren't confident they could get overturned, or that would get tacked on, yeah, I feel like that could be something as to why they did not appeal. And again, I don't know how big the margin was, that how far off they think they were when they started the race versus how far off they were when they weighed in after the race. But they also ran it through multiple times, which is another reason why I say it's probably unlikely that it was completely innocent on their part.
Yeah.
Because again, NASCAR ran the car through multiple times, gave them a chance to fill up the fuel tank, fill up all the radiator fluids and stuff like that, and they still could not make it meet within the minimum amount.
Yeah.
And again, being able to fill that thing completely full of fuel definitely changes the weight.
Yeah, so it had to have been a big number that they were under.
Yeah, exactly. And
My
Well,
big
also at the
number
same
like that.
time, like you, it's still a competitive sport. Like if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Like every team cheats in their own way. That's how they get the differences in the cars. It's just facts.
Yeah.
But they do it in ways that still are within the boundaries.
Yeah, and that's why NASCAR gives them a wiggle room and doesn't say it has to be exactly it has to be exactly like 1,568.3 pounds exactly.
Right.
My next question to you guys, starting with Jayme, I know this was mainly a team mistake and not a driver mistake, but given all of the speculation around Alex Bowman this season, with his ride and all that stuff, what kind of reputation does this give him going forward?
I don't know if this has anything to do with him. Yes, he's been a part of his fair share of shall we say heated moments, but when it comes to a mechanical failure that results in a penalty, that's not something you put on the driver. That's something you put on the mechanics. That's something you put on the team itself, but not necessarily Alex Bowman as a reputation for being like a dirty driver or a cheater or anything like that. I think anybody who would say such a thing is not an avid NASCAR fan. They're looking for clickbaits and Twitter posts to go viral. That's all they're looking for. But I don't think it has anything to do with Bowman's reputation. I think he's still learning. He's still trying to find his way, but I don't think it dampens his reputation at all.
I like that answer. What about you, JP?
Yeah, I agree with Jayme here. I mean, I said it before. Teams make mistakes, and this happened to be a team mistake, not a driver mistake. Alex Bowman drove his ass off this weekend.
He's been driving his ass off the whole playoffs.
Yeah. And I get feel for him. You know, whoever makes a mistake probably will get fired.
Yeah,
I definitely agree on that. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I kind of wish that, considering how little responsibility Bowman really has in this situation, because there really is no real fault of Bowman's, it'd be nice if there was wiggle room in the rules to potentially give them, take them out of the owner's championship, but leave Bowman in the driver's championship so he can still compete for the driver's title, as the driver himself did not cause this penalty. But ultimately, if the penalty's not strong enough, the teams will continue to skirt these rules.
Yep, that's the one thing that sucks is, the driver may not even be involved, but the driver takes the brunt of the punishment.
Yeah, because the whole reason for having a split championship in theory is to be able to officiate when it's a driver thing or a team thing, but we just don't see it called that way, I don't think, ever. And to their credit, I don't think they've ever called it differently, really. I don't remember the last time we saw something that was just a driver or just an owner's points penalty.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time we hear drivers, it's always drivers and owners points. Yeah. And the only real differentiation in the point battle comes from if a driver is out with an injury or suspension.
Yeah. Well, 4 races left in the season. Hopefully Alex can have a strong finish to the season, even though he's not in the playoffs anymore. But we are going to move on to our green flags and black flags. As I always say for our new listeners, green flags is something that you liked during the race weekend, and black flags is something that you did not like. And we will kick it off with Jayme.
So we kind of touched on it earlier. I did like the adjustment to the track. It definitely made it more racy than it had been. So kudos to NASCAR for trying to make the Roval a little bit more, I guess we would say, watchable. And as far as a black flag, it was definitely just how long it took them to make the right call, like what Ryan said. Like, I wish they would have made the call quicker, but it just adds that extra layer of doubt towards NASCAR from a fan perception. Even though they got it right, and we want them to get everything right, it just adds to this narrative of inconsistency and just frustration towards officials. So that's where my black flag would go.
All right. What about you, JP?
So my black flag is going to be a little bit different. Okay. So my black flag is to NASCAR for not having a spotter in that corner. I know that corner's hard to see, but we talked about earlier, human eyes are the number one best thing in my opinion. And it wouldn't have took as long to make the correct call if there would have been someone in that corner saying, there's a car stuck in the tires, we need to throw the caution. So that's my black flag. Sorry, NASCAR. But my green flag is Parker Quigley. While he officially did not win that race, he drove his butt off to even be thought of for that win. So, congratulations to Parker Quigley on a great run this weekend. And I wish things would have played out better, but, the cookie crumbles and the cookie crumbles.
All right. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, well, just to go back to one of JP's points about the lack of a spotter there, to NASCAR's credit, we've never really seen a driver crash or end up under the tire barrier in that corner. Usually, when we see cars going deep into tire barriers, it's usually out in turn 1. That was in like turns 2 and 3. And again, we've prior to that incident, I don't think we've really ever seen drivers end up underneath those tires in that corner. So, I mean, it's not like it was something that NASCAR could have expected because, oh, well, last year we saw 5 cars go into that barrier.
I don't think I've ever seen a car that far under the tire barriers ever.
Well, I know at Chicago, I definitely saw some at Chicago the last couple of years, and I'd have to go back and watch some of the Roval races where they did the whole everybody dive into turn 1 thing, where we see like 7 cars all follow the leader in.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely is not something that happens frequently. And again, I don't think I've ever seen it in that specific corner.
Right.
So yeah, ultimately though, for my green flag, I'm going to go ahead and once again, I'll give it to the weather for, once again, we have a nice sunny, Sunday afternoon. And again, I'm starting to almost forget when the last time we even had a rain delay was. What, like New Hampshire? In July?
Don't jinx it.
But yeah, it's been a while since we had any sort of rain delay, and ultimately Mother Nature gave us a beautiful day for racing. And I'll also give a second green flag out to NASCAR for the new track layout. I was very critical coming into the weekend of it, and I still think that NASCAR was trying to force the drivers to do something, but ultimately the drivers played it nice and respectfully into that corner on, for example, that overtime restart with Mayer and Kligerman. Mayer raced him extremely cleanly, despite that corner giving the opportunity to just dive into the back bumper of not Bowman, but Kligerman. And then my black flag, I'm going to give it to whichever Hendrick engineer it was that made that car underweight. Because clearly that was a big mistake. And not one that will ever probably get forgotten anytime soon. I guarantee Bowman won't forget.
Nope. So my green flag goes to NASCAR for changing the front stretch chicane after the Xfinity Series race on Saturday. They took out the turtles on the right side and put in the rumble strips because a lot of drivers were complaining about, them getting like beat up inside the cars and all that stuff. So thank you to NASCAR for actually listening to the drivers. But that ties into my black flag. My black flag goes also to NASCAR for something we didn't touch on, but Bubba Wallace got a penalty for cutting the front stretch chicane, and then William Byron also did the same thing and did not receive a penalty.
I can actually defend NASCAR on this one. So once you get through explaining yours, I actually can go ahead and defend it.
Well, that's about all I got. So take it away.
All right. So I'll send a couple of photos from the broadcast in the group chat here. But I think there's one pretty clear difference between how far over Bubba's car was compared to how far over Byron's car was. I mean, Byron's car was close, if not on the red and white, most, if not the entire way around that corner. Meanwhile, Bubba's car pretty clearly leaves the red and white rumble strip and goes completely onto the turtles. I mean,
yeah,
like just looking at the amount of blue that you can see between Bubba's car and the rumble strip and how little of it you see for Byron's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a game of inches, but it's one of those things that it is a game of inches. You can be a few inches to the side, and NASCAR lets them as long as you keep two tires on that red and white. And as far as I can tell, Byron was at the very least close, if not on the red and white the whole time, with, again, at least two tires.
Yeah, but could you also take into account, too, that Byron is a playoff driver while Bubba is not?
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that there aren't other factors, because the factor I saw a lot of people going at was, oh, well, Bubba's part of the team that is suing NASCAR versus Hendrick's been one of the teams that's been in line with NASCAR.
Yeah, that is true.
But I'm willing to doubt that there's a whole lot of Hendrick favoritism going on, considering what we saw later on in the night when Bowman got disqualified.
Yeah.
But I think just seeing those two photos from virtually the same angle, I mean, there's a visible difference between the two.
Yeah.
And again, it might not be by much, but
I don't disagree.
I think NASCAR got the right call.
Well, they are racing at Vegas this weekend. We finally have a stretch of some, cut and dry tracks. You got Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville coming up for the round of 8. This is where the cream is going to rise to the top as far as who's better than who. And with that, we will go into our race picks, and we will kick it off with the wheel. And Vegas is actually where we started using the wheel earlier in the season.
Da, 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 da.
So place your bets.
Big money, hot money.
And the first pick of the night is going to be Ryan.
Hey, first pick. Let's go. Well, I know Vegas is the home of the long shot, but I feel like it'd be irresponsible of me since it's the first time in like 4 months that I've picked overall. I think it'd be irresponsible for me not to go ahead and pick Kyle.
Larson.
Figure that was obvious, but yeah.
Let's say Kyle
definitely
Busch
Larson. Don't give me Busch.
It's actually going to be my pick if it landed on me first, so.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would have been irresponsible for whoever got the first overall pick to not take Larson at this track.
When you know JP is the next pick.
Yeah, I know who my second pick would have been.
So, Ricky to going. Ryan was evil, and he took my pick.
JP, I think that was everybody's first overall pick.
But my backup goes to Mr. Christopher Bell.
Alright, solid pick.
Alright.
Was not the name I had second on my list. He would have been like third or fourth.
And next pick will go to Jayme.
So I'm going with the guy that seems to be trading wins at Las Vegas with Kyle Larson, and that'll be Joey Logano.
Ooh.
And that was going to be my pick if I got anything other than first and lost out on Larson. That was my second pick.
If you look at the past 4 years, it's literally gone Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson.
I thought Byron had one in 2023.
So, last pick will go to me. And I am torn between two drivers, but I am going to take winner of the spring 2023 Las Vegas race and William Byron.
Huh. It's almost like I knew a thing or two.
Let me confirm that.
No, I'm looking at the results. So, in all October races, 2023, Kyle Larson.
Oh, in all October races.
Yes.
That's okay, yeah. We were, I was thinking the spring race included.
Nope, I'm looking at only the October races because that's the only one that matters.
Yeah. See it. I'm looking at March of last year. William Byron, Larson, and Alex Bowman 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
But as always, I will get the rest of the picks a little later, most likely tomorrow. But before we close the show out, it is time for Jayme's Trivia. Jayme, what do you have for us tonight?
So, as we all know, when we're dealing in Vegas, we're looking for the right numbers to bet on, right? So, I was thinking, out of the 18 different total starting positions that have claimed victories at Las Vegas, which starting position holds the highest win percentage at Las Vegas?
You're gonna really make us think on this one.
Hey, it's Vegas, baby. It's all about the numbers.
JP, what's your guess?
Alright. So, 9th place, 10.5.
I'll wait till everyone puts their picks in. I won't tell you if you're right or wrong.
Alright. What about you, Ryan?
I'm just trying to think of some of the recent ones and trying to think of, okay, where did they start from? Because I don't think anyone really remembers who starts anywhere other than maybe the pole sitter. But I'll say I think you got to be starting somewhere inside that top 5 to realistically win these races consistently. I'll say third.
All right. I will say fifth.
So out of all of you, Ryan was the closest.
What? Was it the pole?
It was not the pole.
So second then? Because
yes.
Otherwise, literally.
At Las Vegas Motor Speedway, that out of the 18 different starting positions that resulted in race wins, second starting position is the most proficient starting position, producing more winners, which is a total. In the past 18 races, 7 of them have started on the outside pole, with a winning percentage of 21.2%.
Wow.
And then if you want to go into deeper, add an additional 3% to that, and that would be one more win from the front row. So the front row has the highest advantage, but particularly that number 2 spot is who you're going to be looking at that could potentially be the race winner.
Wow.
All right. So basically, according to recent history, if you want to win on Sunday, you better start on the front row.
That is true.
Well, I said you wanted to be starting inside the top 5, and apparently you want to start even better than that.
Top 5 has produced 8 wins. The front row has produced 7.
Wow. Alrighty.
So listen, guys. Right. Before we wrap up this show, I just want to echo my thoughts. Greg, I commend you for what you have done for that young man so far, giving him some of your stuff. And, furthermore, please go check out my channel as I'm getting back up and going from some unsucceeded, things that have went on, so.
Yeah. Be sure to go check out, JP's page. He's got a full-on, YouTube account. I've checked out some of his videos. He does a great job over there. But that is going to do it for our show. As always, a big thank you to all of our sponsors. Once again, the Alkali Project, Century PC, Sleeves, W Energy, Duke Cannon, Bulletproof Coffee, Fanatics, and Fubo TV. Thank you for sponsoring this podcast. And with that, this has been the Lap Down. And for the guys, I am Greg, and for Jayme, JP, and Ryan, we will see you guys after Las Vegas. Deuces.
Let's get some gambling in, baby. Deuces.